Justin, thank you very much. So yes, Mobile World Live TV are staying ahead of the times. This year, we've all gone 5G. So what we have done is we have got our 5G camera from Samsung, and people have been looking at it certainly as they've been walking past. So with me in the studio now is Alok Shah, who is the VP Strategy and Business Development and Marketing at Samsung. He's going to talk me through this. Thank you very much, Alok, for coming into the studio.
Thanks very much for having me.
And thanks for the 5G camera as well.
No, we're really excited to be working with Mobile World Live on this demonstration of what's possible with 5G.
So talk me through the kit that you have supplied.
Sure.
What actually have we got to do this?
Sure. So there's a 5G base station from Samsung that's been installed in the area. And then a 5G customer premise equipment, what we call a CPE, that's then connected to the video camera. And so you've got a 5G connection between the camera and the network that allows video to get transmitted over to a media server that's sitting back in the cloud that then distributes your content all over Barcelona.
So how did it work for you? I mean, what about the challenges in actually setting it up, or was it fairly smooth and it did what it was supposed to do?
There are always the challenges here and there, but in general, we have substantial experience in deploying 5G at this point. You know, we've worked with operators in Korea, in the U.S. to bring 5G to consumers and business lives, and so the network is something we understand pretty well.
Yeah. And before, I mean, we use various different ways, but I mean, before we sort of had fiber-based. I mean, talk me through the differences. First of all, I mean, you know, the real differences, and then we'll talk about sort of the differences and actually the effect that it makes. But the real differences, what did we have before and what's the difference now?
Sure. So in the past, the video camera was tethered basically over fiber to the studio, right? And so what 5G brings is the ability to support very high resolution video over this network and be able to disconnect the video camera operator from a particular location. So you can roam around and be able to capture what's happening, where it's happening, when it's happening.
So the idea is you could put the camera wherever, as long as it could talk to the base station.
That's right. That's right. So as we move toward commercial 5G networks, where that connectivity will be throughout the venue, you'll be able to travel wherever you need to go to catch the interview or the news as it's happening.
So how far could you then get from that base station?
Yeah, so we've done quite a lot of testing trials around the world, and in this frequency band, which is up in the 28 gigahertz millimeter wave band, we've seen coverage as much as a kilometer. Now, obviously, it depends on the obstructions and the walls and what they're made out of and things like that. But certainly, you know, a relatively small number of base stations can cover a pretty large space.
So you would be looking at line of sight, sort of not things in between.
So what's exciting about the current state of 5G is we've gone beyond line of sight. We can now carry 5G traffic or 5G signals through different kinds of obstructions, and so. You know, whether that's foliage or buildings and walls, that's what makes 5G possible. What makes 5G really work is that we're not limited just to line of sight.
So when you say foliage and buildings, so you can get through those sort of obstructions or not? Yeah,
absolutely.
You can.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've deployed 5G with our operator partners in Korea and in the U.S., and those use cases involve people being able to use hotspots or home broadband CPEs through walls inside buildings.
Have you got a good hotspot in mind that you're thinking, actually, yeah, that was a great one that was quite difficult to set up, but it worked well?
So I think, you know, the home environment in the U.S. can be quite tricky in some places. Definitely, there are parts of the United States that are quite flat and limited in tree cover, and then there are parts that are much more challenging. So, you know, two markets that we deployed with Verizon were Sacramento and Houston. Both of those have some fairly heavy foliage areas, and so we're quite pleased with the way that we were able to get that service through.
You've also got the difference between seasons as well, and sort of, you know, different times at different times of the year. The other thing, of course, is the latency. I mean, and that's the thing that everyone's talking about 5G, is that you have this as near instantaneous as you can possibly get. So the idea, obviously, coming back to broadcast, is that it's almost that instant broadcast from where you are to where you want to be.
That's right, yeah. So I think one of the limitations of trying to do this with 4G in the past has been the lag of carrying that video over the network and back out. And so, and that's why the cameras have really been tethered. And so 5G gets us latency. The air latency is single-digit milliseconds. And so even through the network, it's still substantially faster than what we can see with 5G.
So what we did a little earlier, we did a bit of an experiment with the old 4G and your 5G.
Great.
How do you think you got on?
My fingers are crossed.
Right.
Maybe, I guess 4G is using the commercial network, 5G is in a local one, but clearly we expect that 5G latency should be substantially better.
Substantially better?
Yeah.
Okay, now, should we take a look?
Let's see.
Okay, so let me just show you what we did a little earlier. Now you can see there's Justin Springham. Now straight away you can see that on one side we had it with the 4G camera. We've got it labelled there as the 4G camera on the left. And then on the right hand side is Justin standing there under the 5G camera. So Alok, what we did was we filmed them both at exactly the same time. So when we play this, when we do, what you will see is the same link, the same bit of broadcast with Justin saying something. And then what I imagine you want to see is that he will speak almost instantaneously on one, and then we'll have quite a gap before the 4G
That's what I'm
kicks
hoping
in. That's
for.
what you're hoping for. Do you want to make a guess as to how long? What the difference might be?
Maybe half a second?
Half a second, okay. Well, let's roll it and we'll see what the difference is between the 4G and the 5G. Here we go.
This is Justin from Mobile World Live TV.
This is Justin from Mobile World Live TV
19 Barcelona.
MWC 19 Barcelona.
What do you think?
Oh, that's great. That's definitely more than a second, I would say. Yeah. No, it's that's the promise of 5G, right? Is you get high throughputs for very high resolution video, but you also get this near instant connectivity.
Yeah, I mean the difference there, we reckon, we haven't timed it exactly, but I mean, we all saw it there. It's a good, that was 3 seconds, good 2.5, 3 seconds.
3 seconds, I think, yeah.
Yeah,
and so, clearly the 5G network here is a limited area that we're covering, but as we go to commercial 5G, that won't change that much. And so I think we'll still see a pretty substantial gap in improvement.
It's interesting to see that just from everyone's perspective as well. That's what it would have been, and that's what, that's what we're doing here with the 5G camera. You've got other stuff here as well, haven't you?
Absolutely.
You've got lots of other things that you are looking at MWC 19. What have you got?
Well, so Samsung has many different fingers in the 5G pie. One of the things that we do that we think is quite differentiated is we actually build chips in addition to mobile devices and network equipment and so many other things. So this is actually something that we announced just last week. It's our RF chipset, our second generation RF chipset. It supports 28 and 39 gigahertz. We've really taken a whole bunch of discrete functionality and moved it into this ASIC form factor, drive substantial improvements in size, weight, and power.
Okay, so you're going to have to explain now how big that sort of setup was before then. So previously to this, roughly what would have been the size difference?
So the total size difference from a chip level perspective is probably 35 to 40%. What we're seeing in end product, the base station itself will be 25% smaller, 25% lighter, and 25% more power efficient.
So what does that mean in real terms of where you could put it then, or the difference in use?
Yeah, so it all comes down to the ease of getting these networks deployed. And so with a smaller, lighter base station, we can get much easier site access, permitting, more unobtrusive deployments, and the power consumption benefits are tremendous in terms of carrier OpEx.
So have you got any use case scenarios yet that you're already looking at?
Yeah, we're working hard on bringing 5G to a number of different consumer and enterprise use cases. There are demonstrations throughout the show floor here in our booth, in the Samsung Mobile booth, and partner booths, where we're showing off different manufacturing and factory warehouse type use cases where that size matters. And then when it comes to consumer 5G, we're doing some really interesting demos around cloud gaming,
Right.
where again, low latency and very high throughput can matter.
Well, going back to the example that we showed with the 4G and the 5G cameras, if you imagine that sort of thing in a gaming environment.
Yeah, wouldn't work well, right? Wouldn't work well at all if you press a button and 2 seconds later something happens. That's right.
Yeah, and that would be the difference. That would be your gamer's advantage,
Yeah,
wouldn't it? It
for
really,
sure.
really would be.
Yeah.
Tell me, how many business cards have you got with you that you're going to be handing out this week?
So far, I've got probably 25 in my pocket, and I have
Okay.
not handed out one just yet. So
Not yet?
Not yet.
Wow.
So far, they've stayed in my pocket, but I have a
Okay.
feeling they'll be gone by Thursday.
And what about your step count, dare I ask? What are you on so
I'm
far?
only at 3,000 today.
Oh, my goodness.
Because I've spent most of my time in the Samsung.Networks booth, but I have a feeling
be
that'll
why.
grow too this week.
That will, yes. If you don't do your 10,000 a day,
Yeah, that would be a
you've got to.
failure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would be a failure.
Oh, look, thank you very much for coming into the studio to talk that through with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I'm glad you enjoyed the demo as well.
That's great, yeah. Surprise.
Alok, thank you. You are with Mobile World Live TV. We've got a quick break now, but there is more from MWC 19 Barcelona in just a moment. Stay with us.